longer than you think if it's not in direct contact with the fucking ground. So
yeah, it's hard to burn like treated like.
Wait,
I don't think we've ever, we don't ever burn.
what did I do? I didn't actually go live, did I? Did I? I started the stream. Yeah. Hey, did I hit the go live button? I think I did. I'm gonna hang on. I gotta do off air and mute me. That's silly. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. My goodness, that gets me so pumped up. It gets me so pumped up. Woo! I love that. I love that. That music should be credited in the video description, I hope. That's Vengent. Is it? Is it credited in the video description? I should add that if I haven't. Where's the... There it is. No. There it is. Oh my God. What an amateur. What's up, everybody? We're here. Welcome back. For those of you who missed my stream on Sunday, this is the first stream of me being back in town. back from my long trip. I say trip. Some people were like, oh, Bardwell, must be nice to be able to take 6 weeks off, go on vacation. I'm like, yeah, that would be nice. That's not what I did. I was working. I was, you know, it wasn't the most grueling work everybody ever did. But I did get a little bit of a vacation. Went and visited my editor, Fabio. He lives in Ticino, Switzerland. Took me to Milan, near where he's originally from, and took me all around and showed me. Really, honestly, I showed up and he was like, "I've got the whole trip planned. I've got a spreadsheet," and I was like, "Woo!" But he was a absolutely excellent tour guide, passionate, excited, and took me all over the place, and it was a wonderful time. And I am very, very thankful to him for that. But I'm also thankful to be back here with you guys doing the old Q&As, the Q's and the A's. And Blenty, we remembered. I think we remembered how to do it on Sunday. It went pretty well.
Yeah, I think it went pretty well. For people that don't know, you do one show earlier on Sunday, and you do a show later on Monday, so we get both crowds, right?
Yeah. The Europeans was my original intent to do it like for the people on Eastern time zones, not too Eastern, because then you're in China and you can't, there's no good time for you. And then tonight's for the Americans, because none of the Europeans want to stay up this late. Those little losers getting their 8 hours of sleep. Things are. I'm joking. Please don't hate me, Europeans. Plenty. There are some things that are different. Well, I don't know if this is a general European thing, but Fabio, very, very serious about like taking a walk after dinner. Like we would get back, we'd go out and we'd go hiking around to these waterfalls. On a typical day, we walked like 13 kilometers, 14, they have a little walking thing. And then we get back and be like, cool, yeah, cool. We'd have dinner. He'd make a nice dinner, went all out. We would have cocktails and a little aperitivo before. And then we'd have, a meal and, and then a little, digestive, a little drink after. And then he'd be like, cool, so we're going for a walk. And I was like, I'm going to bed. But they do a little 3 kilometer walk after dinner. And I was like, okay, that's a little different. I don't know. I don't usually walk that much. But now I'm back. And I'm not walking as that much. A little bit. But there are some people from Europe here. Damn it. Some Scotland. Ian Cooper from Scotland is awake right now. So, here's what we're going to do. We're going to... Blunty's going to queue up questions for me. And I'm going to answer the questions. And we're going to do that for about 2 hours. 2 hours and 5 minutes since I started the stream early by accident. Yeah, in OBS, there's there's this button here, which I'm not going to press because now it says end broadcast, and I don't want to do that. But, that's interesting. How do we... No, don't do that. It originally says start broadcast, and then it says go live. And I clicked the button, not realizing that I was already broadcasting, and I went live 5 minutes early. So, well, easy enough. If you guys want to make sure that I read your question, then down here at the bottom of the screen, make sure that you, down here at the bottom of the screen, make sure that you hit the $sign, leave a super chat. That is the way to pretty much guarantee that I'll read your message. Otherwise, Blunty's going to queue them up. I'm going to take the messages that just feel interesting to me. We're going to do that for about 2 hours. And if I don't get to your question, then by all means, email me, jb@joshuabardwell.com, and I will do my best to answer it regardless. How was the pizza? The pizza was good. Of course, Fabio, very, very proud of Italian pizza and Italian cuisine in general. He showed me some of his favorite places. It was delicious. It was Neapolitan style pizza, which is I'll be honest, it's not my favorite style of pizza. I don't want to say that like it was great pizza. 100%. I will say, if I had to pick like one style of pizza to eat for the rest of my life, it wouldn't be Neapolitan style. I don't want to. It sounds like I'm like putting it down, but it was really good. It was really good. I don't know why. Why do I have to be like that? Why couldn't I just say it was great pizza? It was great pizza. Why do I have to like put some kind of a caveat on it? I don't know. I'm really. You know what it is, and I'm really snobby about pizza. And here's what it is. I'll be honest with you. Actually, I'm just processing this right now. This has just become a Joshua Bardwell pizza therapy session. In the American pizza making community, there is Neapolitan style pizza is like put up on this pedestal. Because in order to make Neapolitan pizza, you need a pizza oven that's at like 900 degrees Celsius. And you put that pizza in, and it's in there for 90 seconds at most. Boom, it comes out. It's very hard to make Neapolitan style pizza, both in terms of just having an oven that gets hot enough, and then in terms of being able to make the dough and so on, right? So Neapolitan pizza gets put up on this pedestal where some American pizza makers act like it's the only kind of pizza that's actually like, whoa, that's the best. And so I kind of, and I'm like, well, there's a lot of good style. Shut up. You can't tell me what the best pizza is. So I have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder about Neapolitan style pizza. I didn't realize that until just now when I had to figure out why I was a little bit bitchy about the pizza that my friend from Italy gave me. And it was Neapolitan style, because that's where we were. So anyway, yeah. Anyway, the pizza was good. The pizza was good. Let's queue up some questions. We got a question here. Twix wants to know, will you review the Hota F6 Plus anytime soon? Sure, I'll review it right now. Let's review it. Hota F6 Plus. Who's this guy? Oscar Leong. Why is he showing up at the top of the search result? Huh. Race day quads. Hota F6. F6 Plus. Okay, I see. So it's a quad channel, 1,000 watt, with a built-in power supply. That's interesting. Is it 1,000 watts is 200? So let's DC input port is XT90. Wow. Sheesh. DC input must be used to achieve the full 1,000 watts. Still 500 watts is good. 500 watts on the built-in AC power supply is good. I'm pretty sure that the Hota D6 only does like 250 watts. So 500 watts is excellent for a charger with a built-in for the built-in power supply. 250, well, yeah, so it's going to be like 125. 125 watts times 4 channels is plenty to charge the typical mini quad batteries. $185. That's a little expensive, but it's a 4-channel 500 watt charger with a built-in power supply. That's okay. Hota makes good stuff. The F6 has been a good charger, but it didn't have a built-in power supply. The good quality chargers, like they hold up, they perform, they meet their specs, they're reliable. I think the question would be, well, number one, do I definitely need a 4-channel charger? Right? It can take a DC input, but let's be honest, if you're buying this charger, if you want a 1,000-watt DC input charger, you can get one cheaper than this. So you're buying this for the AC power supply. I would compare it to the Hota S6. I would compare it to the Hota S6. The Hota S6. There's this Oscar Long guy again. Interesting. The Hota S6 is 400 watts DC, 325 watts dual channel. 325 watts times 2? AC, no, AC 400 watts. Okay, so AC 400 watts versus AC 500 watts. That's interesting. Does this go to, it's only 6S. Why is this one 185 versus 170? It's only $15 more. The F6 Plus looks like it's $15 more than the S6 and has 4 channels instead of 2 and a little bit higher output. That seems like a no-brainer. It seems like the F6 Plus is easily worth the extra $15. You get twice the channels and 100 more watts. It's probably bigger, right? It's bigger. So maybe you care about that, but no, it's like it's a lot bigger. Yeah. I think that's a very compelling option, to be honest. Why not compare the F6 AC to the F6 DC plus a power supply? I mean, we could do that. But $128. So $130. 185, 130. So it's $55 more for the F6 Plus, and you get a 500-watt power supply. Like, in any world, a 500-watt power supply is worth $55. There was a time where you could get like a 1,000-watt rack mount power supply refurbished for $40. Those days are gone. And this is a good quality power supply. Hota makes pretty good, I mean, their stuff is pretty reliable. Whereas if you were to buy some $50 500-watt power supply, I think you'd be getting some Chinese special that maybe wouldn't have the same quality. Yeah. 250 watts quad channel. Is that 250 watts per channel? Is that per channel? It says surely it's more than 250 watts per total, each at 250 watts. Yeah, so the F6 is also 1,000 watts DC, but without a built-in power supply. Alejandro Gallo says I use the Race Day Quads 400 power supply. It's $40, yeah, but it's also a China special. You know. And it's only 400 watts. I think the Hota F6 is pretty compelling. Whether you compare it against something like the S6, like what about the D6 Duo or D6 Pro? Not the Ethics version with the $10 Mr. Steel tax. $125 for, what does it do? 200 watts. So the D6 Pro is 200 watts for one channel or 100 watts per 2 channels. It's basically 200 watts between both of the channels and is only $125. So it's significantly lower output. It's also significantly smaller and cheaper. I think that's pretty compelling. Yeah. I think the F6 Plus, unless you care a lot about the size, the F6 Plus looks like it shoots right at the S6 and just knocks it out. And even compared to something like the F6 with a standalone power supply, I think the F6 Plus is pretty compelling. So, yeah. There's my mini review of the Hota F6 Plus. And that's what I would say if they sent me one and I tested it. Frankly, I think most of the time you can review a charger just by looking at the specs and knowing the company that made it, right? Because if you were to send me a charger and I were to like test it, well, that's the sample size of one, right? So who knows what that's going to mean, you know? I mean, obviously I would test it, but generally you take a company like Hota or HobbyMate, same company, I think. You take a company like that has a history of making good, reliable chargers, and then you look at their next charger and you go, okay, well, let's presume that the software is going to work and it's going to be reliable, and then you just look at the specs and basically review it. Oh, Black Jungle, I missed you yesterday. And the memes. Black Jungle's back with the memes. Good to see you, sir. Okay. Okay. Let's see here. All right, that was plenty of time on that question. Let's, did I get any good drone footage to show you? Sidian asks. Nope, I sure didn't. So the majority of my trip, like the first 6 weeks of my trip, I was working. And the kind of work I was doing, it wasn't really possible to share footage from it. You know, some customers are like, we don't want you talking about what you're doing or telling people or showing people. And that's just, you know, obviously they're paying you to be there, so you do what they say. You know, like if you were behind the scenes on a Michael Bay movie, they would be like, oh, no, clearly you can't show anybody your background footage, or maybe they would screen it. I don't know how it works. So the first 6 weeks I was working and didn't have any footage, at least not any that I could show you. And then when I went to visit Fabio, there were all these beautiful mountains and so forth. And I thought, this is like the first time I've ever met Fabio in person. We've known each other for 5 years. We've worked together for 5 years where, you know, we talk. And, but I'd never met him in person. And he, you know, I thought, I don't want to like turn this trip into a stressful work trip where I'm like stressed about, because anytime I'm trying to shoot footage, I'm stressed because I'm working. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go and I'm going to spend time with him, and I'm not going to stress about working or turn it into a big thing. If I go back, like, I'll be like, okay, now let's shoot some footage. Let's go places, because we sort of had that experience. But I didn't really, the whole time we were there, I just went wherever he took me. We saw waterfalls. We hiked. I saw the Duomo in Milan, this giant Gothic church. He took me to all these favorite places, and I just was along for the ride, and it was wonderful, and I didn't think about FPV. I answered my emails. I did answer emails in the evenings, but I didn't really think about flying much at all. So, yeah. So, let's see. Take a couple more questions, and we'll get to the super chats. Oh, man. Scott Allen wants to know, what update on the Goggles 2 prevents the ham file hack from working? None that I'm aware of. DJI has never, in my, as far as I know, they have never historically locked out the ham unlock. Because if you're a customer who buys a piece of equipment in Europe and then you take the equipment to the United States, you have the right to unlock it. And you can't do that once you activate, they're just activated forever, right? So you can't reactivate them to change their region. So my theory is that the reason DJI never breaks the ham unlock is that customers who moved equipment from Europe to the United States would say, I should be able to unlock this, and DJI would be in trouble. So they leave the ham unlock. I don't know. Several people have asked me this. Maybe they were all you and I just didn't put it together. I don't know where people have gotten the idea that the ham unlock has stopped working for the Goggles 2. It hasn't, as far as I know. Granted, I've been gone for 6 weeks, so maybe I missed something, but I don't think so. Yeah, there's like rumors that get spread around. Yesterday, somebody asked me about rumors about Walk Snail and Fat Shark not supporting the DJI, so not supporting the original Avata goggles. And I thought the question was about Fat Shark not giving support for Walk Snail goggles and Walk Snail not giving support for Fat Shark goggles, which is a thing that they do because they're separate companies. But then I saw on Facebook somebody was talking about, if you buy the V1 Avatar goggles instead of the Goggles X, you won't get support for them. And I was like, is this real or is this just bullshit being spread around on Facebook? My hunch is it's bullshit being spread around on Facebook. If they sold you the goggles, why would they not support them? At least, I mean, who knows if they'll continue to do firmware updates for them, but it's not like they're going to they're going to pretend you don't exist. So. Roe V wants to know, do you think OpenIPC has potential in the future? OpenIPC, the OpenIPC is the, let's just go to the webpage. It is the, what's the name of it? Shoot, Blunty, what's the name of the original project? Is it OpenHD?
This is not affiliated with OpenHD.
Is it completely separate from OpenHD?
My understanding is it's not affiliated. It is separate. I don't know if it's a fork, but it is separate currently.
I thought it was a fork. I thought it was a fork of I could be wrong. I thought it was a fork of OpenHD that somebody figured out you could run it on an IP camera. Well, if it's a fork, it'll say on GitHub. OpenIPC/firmware. Well, where would I see if it was a fork? I think I would already have seen, because it would be up here, wouldn't it? I guess it's not. Well, that's interesting. The question, I can speak to OpenHD, which is the question I had about it was that the latency and there were two things I didn't like about OpenHD. One was that latency is too high for proxy flying. It's okay for flying up in the sky. And number two is that the hardware was kind of janky and cobbled together. I guess I can't really say that about the hardware because OpenIPC uses IP cameras, and so it's more compact, if you will.
Yeah, the thing that I will share is I know there was something going around with pretty low latency. However, if you look into the testing that was done with that low latency, it was actually two pieces of hardware that were done over an Ethernet cable or something. So it's very much not representative.
Wireless.
Right, it's not representative of what we'll see. So I think it probably has a long way to go, and I don't know if it'll be able to get there with the hardware that he's pitching. Because the goal is it's $30 to $50 or something to get into it, which is way cheaper than any other digital solution. But I think we need to see actual testing in the field, performance, and things like that. I don't know. It seems a little too immature for that stuff, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, because the things that have been wrong in the past have been that the latency is bad because they're using some kind of encoder that isn't optimized for real-time latency. So they're just whatever they're using. And that's one of the things that DJI and Walksnail do is they have these specialized encoders that are optimized for real-time latency. And then the other thing is that they're typically using a Wi-Fi chipset as their transmitter, and it's not very optimized for long range and low latency. And so you end up with this digital video link that kind of technically works but isn't right. It's the same problem that existed with digital FPV links before DJI released the V1 of the DJI FPV system, where they were the first one to really probably the first one to really solve that problem. Well, I guess technically, who was it who came before? There was one digital but the video transmitter was enormous, but it kind of worked. Here we've got a range test. A latency and range test. It's actually flying. How is he testing latency? What are we going to get? How are we testing the latency? I don't see any actual... How are we testing the latency? Okay. Good to know. I will stop saying... I thought this was a fork of OpenHD. I see that this is I'm sure... I suspect that this is replying to me, at least in part. I misunderstood, and I appreciate the clarification.
Yeah, just to confirm that 30 millisecond test that he shows, I'm not sure if it's in this video or another one, where he compares frames, was done on a 3090 with a local connection.
Yeah, that's irrelevant to FPV. Here we've got a latency and range test, but I don't... Here's words on screen. I don't know how we're testing latency because I see no numbers. I don't see any analysis of the latency other than maybe he's just saying, oh, hey, the latency felt good.
Also, it looks like, from what I can tell, the hardware has gone up to $80. It was $50 when this project was kind of starting to kick. Yeah. But from now, what I can tell, the same board is $80. So.
Well, $80 for a camera and video transmitter is still pretty impressive. Although, you know, you're getting, I think around 120, 150 is where you'll start to see things like walk snail. So, the more expensive that gets, the less interesting it becomes, unless you're a hacker. So I'd be curious to know more about the latency. But if he was getting 30-ish milliseconds on a local Ethernet connection with a 3090, stands to reason the latency would be higher than that using a system mounted on a quad, right? It would have less processing power and encode slower. And
yeah, 30...
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
In my book, OpenIPC is on a shelf of like, hey, we'll keep an eye on this. Let's see where this goes and what happens to the hardware availability and what happens to solutions in the air and stuff.
Yeah. Still interesting. But, oh, God, don't do this. Don't do this. Anybody doing latency testing, don't do this. Don't do this. Don't show a stopwatch on screen. There's so much that's wrong with this. Yeah, that's bad. The right way to test latency, if you're interested in doing it, is the way that guys like Chris Rosser, and he's not the only one, people have been doing this for a while. You have an LED that you light the LED, and the LED is visible in camera and with a second camera. I've done it with a GoPro set to 240 frames per second. That gives you 1 frame every 4 milliseconds. Which still is on the lower edge of the amount of precision you need to have a meaningful result, because at 60 frames per second, that you might have latency of maybe 16 milliseconds or 19 or 20 milliseconds, and if you're only measuring with 4 millisecond precision, then that's still like not that good. Chris Rosser has like a 900 frame per second slow-mo camera that he uses, and that gives him a lot of precision to measure the difference between when the LED turns on and then when the camera picks it up. Aber the Ham says stopwatches are fail-proof. If you had a physical stopwatch, maybe, but you still would need a high frame rate camera to catch every movement of the stopwatch. The best way to do it is with a LED and count frames. So, I'm gonna guess that it's underwhelming. I mean, it's technically interesting, and I don't want to like kudos to the developers for doing it. It's cool that you're doing it, but as far as is it a viable replacement for an actual FPV system like Walksnail or DJI or HD0, I'm gonna guess no. Certainly not for low latency proxy flying. Let's take some super chats. We've got several of them stacked up. We're going to start with this super chat from Parkour Guy. Thank you for a $5 super chat, Parkour Guy. Happy Model X12 AIO has terrible range on the stock VTX table. I cannot find documentation on the proper VTX levels. Parkour Guy, one of the things I'll tell you is in Betaflight, if you have screwed up the VTX table, and specifically if the power levels, the power values are wrong. Let's look so we can make sure we're on the same page. Let me go to virtual mode here, and video transmitter. Is video transmitter gonna work if I'm in virtual mode? Let's take smart audio here in the ports tab. Is save and reboot gonna work? It is not gonna work. Damn it. I will need an actual flight controller. Okay, hang on. Hang on. Where's an analog quadcopter? That's not analog. That one might be analog. Might be analog. Okay, okay. Well, I guess I don't have a lot of analog quadcopters anymore. Here we go. Please. Oh, shut the hell up. Why not? What video transmitter is on this? It's the TBS Unify. How do I not have a VTX table? Shh. Nickel. Blickle. Blickle. Blackle. Oh, great. Now I'm breaking the configuration of this quadcopter. Presets. VTX. Unify. Evo 5G8. Hang on. Save and reboot. Okay. Video transmitter. There we go. So, in the video transmitter page, you've got the power values and the labels. And this value is the thing that the flight controller sends to the VTX to tell it what output power it wants it to be on. And the VTX knows how to interpret this number. But if you give the VTX a power value that it doesn't understand or thinks is invalid, then it will just reset. And what it does is it goes down to 25 milliwatts typically and stays there. If any of these are wrong, yeah, I'm pretty sure. If any of these are wrong, the VTX just locks itself at 25 milliwatts. So the first thing you need to know is, what does the VTX expect to see? And then the second thing you need to know is, well, where do I get that VTX table? Yeah, I didn't diff all first. That's right, Morton Upshot. Bad drone guy. Happy Model X12 AIO. Let's take a look at the Happy Model X12 AIO and see if we can figure it out. Onboard VTX, Open VTX, flight controller, Open VTX, 0, RCE, 25 milliwatts, 100, 400. Huh. Is it smart audio? I'm pretty sure Open VTX supports smart audio. Okay, that's not helping. Let's just see if we can find the VTX table. Ah, is this you? 7 months ago, okay. This probably isn't you. Oh, here we go. Bingo. Got it. So, Blunty, keep an eye on the chat. Tell me if he's saying, no, I found that. That isn't right. Will you do that for me?
Yep.
Thank you. Where's my beta flight go? So it looks to me like this is what you want. Right here. 10, 2, 14, 20, 26, 0, RCE, 25, 100, 400. It looks to me like that's what you want. Thank you to this Reddit thread, who, this looks like they have the exact same problem that you had, and we found the answer here. Yay! I solved a problem. Maybe. Parkour guy didn't find it, and hopefully that has fixed it for you. That's how you solve that problem, though. It's a pain in the ass. Callie FPV says, my wife was like, I haven't heard you listening to that nasally guy in a long time. Good to have you back. Thank you, Callie FPV. Kisses to your wife. Platonic kisses. Let's not have words. Welcome. It's the nasally drone guy here to talk about drones. I'm going to be doing the rest of the stream in this voice because no one should call me nasally. It's still nasally, isn't it? Even when I'll lean into the mic. I'll get really close so proximity effect makes the bass really strong. Don't call me nasally. Show your wife. I don't know. Quad City Bay Area, thank you for a $5 super chat. I'm pro walk snail, but the new system 5x range don't interest me. I'm a freestyle pilot. Don't care about range, but penetration is priority. Thank you for $5, Quad City Bay Area. Here's a little secret. Some of y'all know this secret, and some of you don't. I'm about to let you in on it. Range and penetration are the same effing thing. They're the same thing. The exact same characteristics of a radio transmission that give it a long range in open air also give it more penetration. Blowing your mind now? Well, the reason people get confused about this is that you'll have 5 times the range in open air, but that won't equate to 5 times the range if 5 times the penetration necessarily. And the reason for that is that when we're talking about penetration through obstacles, so when we're talking about the signal propagating through open air, it drops off very consistently. I don't want to say linearly because it's actually the inverse square law. So it's not linear, it's an inverse square, but it drops off consistently, right? And so if you quadruple the output power, you double the range. But let's imagine a situation where like we've got a concrete wall, and that concrete wall is going to absorb 15 dB of signal, okay? So what we're going to get is the signal is dropping off in a sort of predictable, consistent way. It hits the wall, and then it goes, zoom, and it comes out the other side of the wall, and it's much weaker. So you do something to the signal that gives you five times the range in open air. Well, double the range is 6 dB. So quadruple the range is 12 dB. So that's pretty close to 5 times the range. 5 times the range, 12 dB. That might be one concrete wall. So you take it out to the bando, this new fancy system that has 5 times the range. You take it out to the bando, and whereas you used to get through one concrete wall, now you get through 2 concrete walls. And you're like, I'm not that impressed. But it's legit. You're getting proportionally more penetration. It's just that concrete walls absorb a lot of signal. Okay? So if you care about range or you care about penetration, you should still be interested in a new system that promises you 5 times the range. But be aware that 5 times the range, that's actually like the difference between, it's 12 dB. So it's like from 100 milliwatts to 400 milliwatts to 1.2, 1200 milliwatts. 1.6. You need to 4x the power. It's the difference between 100 milliwatts and 1.6 watts is 4 times the range. Double and double again. Yeah, no, that's right. And that's not nothing. But that's perspective on how it goes.
Half the chat is mad because DJI gets cut off at 13 kilometers, so apparently you're wrong because range and penetration are different. Like, it's so frustrating. I'm so frustrated with the chat right now, to be honest. But everybody keeps saying DJI cuts off at 13 kilometers, so they're not the same.
Yeah, but that's because DJI imposes an arbitrary limit at 13 kilometers. We're not talking about RF there. We're talking about, I mean, sure, if you want to stipulate that. We're talking about radio signals in general. DJI has an arbitrary limit at 13 kilometers that, you know, I mean, I could get a hammer, and as soon as you fly your drone more than 5 meters away, I smash it with a hammer. And you wouldn't say that the radio link was what was, like, breaking that. The radio link still works the same. The point is that range and penetration, the qualities that give a radio system better range also give it better penetration. And if you would like to add to that in absence of other factors that limit the range, like, okay, if I have a battery on my drone that only lets me fly 2 kilometers out before the battery's empty and it falls out of the sky, you go, oh, I guess your video system doesn't have more range. No, there's something else that's limiting your range. Fly High FPV is right that DJI loses long range tests because of its 13 kilometer limit, but still has better penetration. And if they hadn't locked it down, it would also have better range. I just hear people say, I think we're getting to the point of beating a dead horse. I hear people say, I care more about penetration than I do about range. And I'm like, they're the same. They're the same thing. Okay. Oh yeah, there's lots of comments in here. From the perspective of the RF transmission, they're the same. The only time they're not the same, and I'll give you the exception here, and then we'll move on. 60 gigahertz. There is an oxygen absorption peak at 60 gigahertz. 60 gigahertz signals are absorbed by oxygen in the air much faster than the signal normally would be in terms of its free space path loss. And so 60 gigahertz links are actually, if you get a kilometer out of a 60 gigahertz link, you're doing good. And it actually affects the way the FCC licenses them, because the signal propagates so little in an oxygenated environment. They can actually let a lot more people use those links than they would if the signal wasn't being absorbed. 2.4 gigahertz is absorbed by water. So if you're in a situation where you're going through a lot of water, 2.4 gigahertz will have much shorter range than it otherwise would if you were just thinking about its propagation through free space. So there are some cases where you get a lot of absorption, proportionally more than you would expect. But in general, a signal that gets better range will also get better penetration, and vice versa. QuadDoc says, what's the point in DJI locking the range? DJI didn't lock the range arbitrarily. And this is my best guess as to how the system works and why it works the way it does. But this is not actually a fact backed up by knowledge, because DJI doesn't tell people how their system works. But in computer networking, there's a concept of what they call a reliable system. And a reliable system means that when data is sent, it will be acknowledged, and if it's not received, it's retransmitted. That's a general description of that type of system. The alternative to that is a case where we send data, and if it gets through, it gets through, and if it doesn't get through, we don't care. It's not, and like, so for example, streaming services are typically not reliable, because with a streaming service, if we transmit a packet of data, by the time we figure out that it got lost, we're not going to hold up the whole stream. We're going to just keep going on to the next frame. That's a little bit untrue today. A lot of times video streams are retransmitted, and you'll get buffering warnings and so on. But that's the example we used to use back in the frickin' early 2000s. So the DJI system has acknowledgements and retransmissions is what you could take away from that. And so how does that work? Well, one way that it works is I send you a packet of data, and then I start a timer. And if you don't acknowledge that data within a certain amount of time, I'm going to retransmit it. I'm going to assume you didn't get it. And so you have a certain amount of time which you have to acknowledge the data. Well, if you think about it, if I transmit the data and the data takes so long to get to you that my retransmission timer times out, like that you could not possibly have acknowledged it because you hadn't even got it yet. Well, then I'm just going to keep retransmitting the data and I'm never going to get an acknowledgement. And the theory is that that's what happens to the DJI system when you hit the 13-ish kilometer limit, that the acknowledgement timer is so short because they want to keep the latency of the link low that the packets just can't get acknowledged in time, and that's why the limit is the way that it is. Abraham says, if you do some math with the speed of light, you realize that lag due to range has nothing to do with it. Yeah, but here's the flip side of that. So I know what you're saying, Abraham, because when you do the math, you get like, is it picoseconds, Aber? Is it nanoseconds? What's the speed of light over 13 kilometers? It's not very far. But here's the flip side, Aber. They have to be doing it based on the time in flight, because there is no other way that they could know how far apart the two devices are. Think about it. It's not signal strength, because it is always right at 13.3 kilometers that the DJI system drops. It has nothing to do with signal strength, because signal strength goes up and down. Like Bill O'Reilly said, tide goes in, tide comes out. Can't explain that. Except you can. Right? It has to be the time in flight. And look at the walk snail system where they estimate the distance between the video transmitter and the goggles. How are they doing that? It has to be time of flight. So I don't think it's possible that there's any other mechanism other than time in flight, the round trip time, in other words, whereby they could know that the system is 13.3 kilometers out and have the link fail. And so it has to be time of flight.
Is it possible that there's a known processing overhead as well, and that's the reason it has to be fast, like speed of light? It's speed of light plus a processing overhead that you know guaranteed, so that's why the time is milliseconds instead of picoseconds.
I think that's plausible. We have to acknowledge that we're now getting further into the land of speculation, but that's plausible. If the time in flight is, say, it's nanoseconds or maybe picoseconds, I don't know. But then you also have some number of milliseconds of processing time. Like, the bottom line is that in order for the link to always fail at 13.3 kilometers, there has to be a mechanism by which the system knows the distance between the transmitter and the receiver. And it doesn't have a GPS unit. And I can't think of any other mechanism other than the round trip time. And so that has to be it. That's how I come to this conclusion. Wesley Vardy says it's likely due to the half-duplexy nature of the video protocol. The speed of light round trip at 13 kilometers means the goggles are back in TX mode by the time the previous reply comes in. That's very interesting, Wesley Vardy. Thank you for that. Because but you got 4 antennas, Wesley. You got 4 antennas. I mean, yes, it's half duplex, but if you got 3 receive antennas and 1 TX/RX antenna, I don't know. That's plausible, though. But again, we're way off in the realm of. Interesting. Wesley Vardy says, we ran into this exact problem with ExpressLRS 900 megahertz recently using 200 hertz packet rate at long range. Telemetry stopped coming back at 63 kilometers, and it was because the time in flight was so long that the telemetry was timing out. Yep. I mean, that sounds like the exact same problem, Wesley. We don't know. We don't know exactly why DJI times out, but that's... So the point is this, to go back to Abraham's question, and then we'll move on. Why would DJI do this? Well, DJ, the longer that acknowledgement timeout is, the higher the latency of the link is going to be. So my theory is that in order to keep the latency of the link low, DJI set that timeout low, and that means that the maximum range of the link is also low. Although they fixed it with the O3. The O3 is like up to 23 something.
I'll just say, though, that would make sense if they could process stuff faster, right? Than the, I don't know. Yeah, we'd have to do the math, but...
Yeah, I mean, the speed of light is still the same. Anyway, let's move on. I love the little technical questions, but we got a lot of other super chats to get to. Again, we're going to read through the super chats, and then we'll get back to the regular questions. If you're interested in getting your question read promptly, semi-promptly, leave a super chat now. This is the time to do it. Professor Biohazard, thank you for a $5 super chat. Any toilet tank 5-inch freestyle frames that are less than $80? The Vanny style and the Hook 2 are all I can find, and they are spendy. Toilet tank, less than $80. These days, it's harder and harder to find a frame less than $80. The Rotor Riot tank, I think it's more... it's also toilet tank. The chat is going to save me on this one. If I take long enough to look for answers, the chat will tell me, and then we'll all know. $85. We're going with a Banggood clone. What's a toilet tank frame, though? What are the toilet tank frames? What are out there? Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're going to find a name brand one under $80, so I think we're going to clones. What do we got? Black Jungle says lag with range is due to packet loss, not the speed itself. Respectfully, I disagree, Black Jungle. Why would it die at exactly 13.3 kilometers every time?
We're talking about two different things. Of course, lag with range is due to packet loss, because the farther you get out, you start to lose packets. You have to do retransmits, so you get more lag, right? But that's not what we're saying. That's a different thing than the range limit, right?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, fine. So, who is it? Pacific Northwest Pilot says, I run my AOS 5 Evo in toilet tank. It's not built for it, but I can make it work. There are slots that I can go through. Yeah, I guess. Sorry, Black Jungle. I didn't realize the conversation had moved. I can't let a good thing go, though. I mean, technically, I see where you could run the slots, but that would bug me. I think it's going to be tough to find really almost any sort of name brand frame under $80 these days. 60, I mean, maybe you'll get it down to 65.
A lot of people asking why people would choose to toilet tank.
Yeah, well, so toilet tank means that the battery is sideways instead of straight front and back. And some people feel it changes the mass distribution of the quadcopter. That's a fact. So if you think about it, if we had a piece of mass, a piece of matter that was a cylinder, right? Like, what can I get? Like a pen. So imagine we've got a cylinder, okay? Well, obviously this cylinder is going to rotate very easily on this axis, and it's going to accelerate and decelerate slower on this axis because the mass is further from the center of gravity, okay? Right? And so the idea is that the battery is a substantial part of the mass of a quadcopter frame. So if we take the battery and we put the battery front to back on the quadcopter is now more responsive on the roll axis and a little bit less responsive on the pitch axis because the mass is more spread out. So people who fly toilet tank, one of the things that they think about it is that it changes the mass distribution. That having the battery sideways means that you get more responsiveness on the pitch axis and a little bit less responsiveness on the roll axis. Of course, you're just trading one thing for another. And I'm not sure whether you know, it's you know, that's just a matter of preference. But either way, you know, you're not winning in some way. The other thing is that the toilet tank, it lets you, if you have a very short frame, a very squat frame, that especially if you have a bigger battery, it can be hard to fit that battery on the top deck, especially if you have a GoPro. So like the battery is crammed up against the GoPro and then it hits the GoPro and breaks the screen. By turning the battery sideways, now the battery can't shift forward and hit the GoPro, and you can have a more compact frame with more room on the frame. The flip side of that, as Meme FPV points out, is that the battery can get real close to the props depending on what frame you're using, and it might make it more likely that you're going to get chopped. Not all frames suffer from this, but it's certainly something to think about.
Can I ask, can't you just tune out the difference? Like is there actually a physically, are we actually saying the rate is like harder for the quad to get to the rate, or wouldn't the motors just spin up better with proper PIDs, right? So
my theory, Blunty, is that you would need higher P gains if you have the mass. Just like, again, go back to our hypothetical mass, okay? If this is the mass and here's your pitch axis, right? This quadcopter is going to have very high P gains on pitch and very low P gains on roll, because it has to accelerate harder to hit the commanded rate on pitch. This quadcopter, again, this is the pitch axis. It's going to have low P gains on pitch and high P gains on roll. So the mass, people think that the PIDs depend on the motor layout, and to some degree they do, but more it depends on the mass distribution of the quadcopter. And I think what you see with most typical like freestyle layouts is you have higher P gains on pitch because the mass is distributed more across the front to back axis. But if those PIDs were correct, Blunty, then you would accelerate. You would have the same rotational rate, and you would hit the rotational rate quickly. It would just affect your PID tuning. So I think the real reason for toilet tank, people say toilet tank flies better, and that's a personal claim. I think the real reason that people might choose toilet tank has more to do with the logistics of putting the battery on the top plate than the actual way that it flies. But I could be wrong about that. Did anybody come up with a good frame for Professor Biohazard? I don't know. I think it's going to be a clone frame. The Speedy Bee FS225 is a toilet tank, $49 to $69. Great. The AOS 5V2 has a toilet tank frame. Okay. The AOS 5V2 is a toilet tank. The cutouts didn't look like it for me. Anyway, Kimfused FPV, thank you for a 25. Wow, Kimfused, thank you for your generosity. You and Rotor are always so kind and generous. I hope you guys are doing very well, and I hope your dogs are well. Happy week. Yeah, it is Thanksgiving week, isn't it? Welcome back. I just went this evening to the Christmas lighting in a park near my house. They do a big thing where people come, and there was probably like a few hundred people out, and they had some people singing Christmas carols in the old Tennessee country style. Santa came and he turned the lights on. The mayor was there. The alderman was there. I didn't even know Farragut's the kind of town that would have an alderman. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. Thank you for the generosity, Confused. Ken Cam, 8S pilots, FYI. I contacted RC and Power about making 8S motors and Pyroflip about carrying them, and they agreed. See Pyro's new products page. Okay. Ooh, 60. Oh, RC and Power. Very nice. RC and Power, 1600 kV 8S brushless motor, black gold. Hell yeah. RCN Power makes a great motor. They don't make a cheap motor, but they are some of the best motors in terms of their build quality and in terms of their performance. RCN Power is one of the few motor manufacturers that when they charge $27 for a motor, I still wouldn't buy it because I'm a cheap bastard. But I don't like begrudge them because they just consistently perform really near the top of the charts when it comes to performance. Great. If you're building an 8S build, here is one of the few 1600 kV options. Most people doing an 8S build would choose like a 17 or an 1800 kV motor and use a motor output limit. So now you don't have to. Good for you. Thank you for letting us know about that. Caleb D, thank you for a $5 super chat. Again, continuing to work our way through the super chats. Trying to get Betaflight OSD and Betaflight 4.5 Zulu. No HD ODC preset. Recommended CLI command gives errors using... Caleb, I will be happy to try to walk you through this, but I am not going to take up several hundred people's time on a live stream trying to walk you through this. I just don't think that live streams are really great for that kind of troubleshoot. And this is not the kind of thing where I can go, oh, yeah, well, you got to do the blah, and then we're done. No, I'm going to have to sit down and sort of talk you through it. So you should email me. Thank you for your donation. You should email me, and we should try and figure it out. But thank you for the donation. Quad City Bay Area. Is it confirmed that digital penetration is better than analog? Thank you for a $5 super chat. Quad City Bay Area, I think almost everyone will agree that digital penetration is as good or better than analog, especially in multipath environments. Digital transmission signals have ways of dealing with and even benefiting from multipath. And I don't know how many of these techniques, like our specific systems, are using, but I know that they exist. Analog was invented way back when digital transmission systems barely existed. We've come a long way. In open air, milliwatt for milliwatt, analog can hold its own, but as soon as you get interference or as soon as you get multipath, digital really shines, especially when you consider that the digital systems we're using are outputting much less power than the analog systems we're using. When an analog system says it's outputting, say, 1 watt, that is the output power from the radio into the antenna. So you take, they call it the intentional radiator is the official term for it. You take the output from the intentional radiator, you put it into the antenna, you add the antenna gain, and you get the final emitted, they call it EIRP, equivalent isotropic radiated power. So if we got 1 watt from the intentional radiator going into a 3 dB antenna, which I choose 3 dB just to keep the math simple, that's going to double the power, and we're going to get 2 watts coming out of the antenna. The digital video transmitters, and I'm not sure why they do this, but Chris Rosser tested a whole bunch of the digital video transmitters, DJI, Walksnail, etc. The digital video transmitters, when they talk about the output power and they say they're doing 1 watt, it's from the antenna, not from the intentional radiator. So a DJI video transmitter at 1 watt into a 3 dB antenna is actually only outputting 500 milliwatts. A DJI video transmitter at 1 watt and an analog video transmitter at 1 watt, the analog video transmitter is actually outputting about twice the power. So in other words, the digital video systems are getting as good or better range and penetration on half or less the output power. And that's how good the digital systems really are. Yeah. So yeah. Confirmed, I would say. Thank you, Abraham, for a $10 super chat. Welcome back. I missed you guys too. I really did. It was, you know, I did as much work as I could before I left on my trip to prepare to have videos ready to post. Like normally when I go on a 2-week trip, for the month before I leave, I'm working double time so that when I leave, I have videos to post, and you guys barely know I'm gone, except, of course, the live stream stop. But for a 6-week trip, there was no way that I could stack up 6 weeks of content. And I just was like, okay, this is it. And when I left, I had some content. I had some content ready to go. There were a few things I rushed to do before I left. And then I was like, that's it. I still took the time to answer emails as best I could. I think I kept up with most of them because I just really feel like when people contact me personally, I feel a strong sort of sense of responsibility to help and reply. But the video schedule went down. I think I posted maybe once a week while I was gone, maybe less. And on some, it was interesting to sort of, it's been 7-8 years since I spent that long not posting videos. Not quite 8 years, maybe 2016, 2015. Christ. Okay, maybe 8 years. 2020, anyway. And so I haven't taken a break that long in a long time, and it was interesting to wake up and not think, I have to make a video today. Just because I was, I would wake up and I'd be like, okay, I have to go to work today, which was interesting. That's different for me. But I missed you guys. I missed making content and just feeling like the freaking goggles, the Walksnail Goggles X video came out, or product release came out, and they were like, hey, do you want to review this? And I was like, I'd love to, but I'm not able to make a video until November. And I really felt I missed being part of that community and so on. So it's good to be back. Ghost Branch says, welcome back, but isn't your next trip just around the corner? No, Ghost Branch, I know what you're referring to. You are referring to the trip to the Netherlands in December, but that trip did not pan out, as they do sometimes. So that currently I have nothing on the travel schedule until January 15th, I think, is my next trip. So I'm looking forward to a nice 2 months of just solid being home and doing this stuff. So, best China eShop for FPV, AliExpress or Banggood? AliExpress. Banggood used to be the king, and it is not anymore. Banggood's selection has really gone down. They have much less stuff that's out of stock more often, and their prices used to be significantly cheaper than everybody else's, and that's kind of why you bought from them, and they're not anymore. In addition, I'm told by people who live in Europe that Banggood used to have a way of shipping stuff to you that got you around customs and VAT, and now that doesn't work anymore. And so buying from Banggood is basically just as expensive as buying local. And yeah, but I see people ordering from AliExpress, and they're like, AliExpress kicks ass. So it's looking really good. Yeah. Sorry about that, Ghost Branch. That is just how it goes. The customer, you as a professional who work as a self-employed person, the customer is hot to trot and sure that they're going to come through with the money. And then eventually they don't come through with the money. And you're like, I'm sorry, I can't commit to this date. And that's pretty much how that went. We'll probably still do that, but it won't be in December. Black Jungle, thanks for another 5 reais. What's the deal with 1.2 and 1.3 gigahertz video transmitters? So 1.2, 1.3 gigahertz video transmitters, the advantage of them is that they have much better range and penetration due to their lower frequency. In general, lower frequencies propagate better. A good example of that is that when your neighbors are having a party, it's the bass that comes through the wall, not the treble. Lower frequencies propagate better and penetrate better. So going from 5 gigahertz down to 1 gigahertz is a significant boost in terms of range and penetration. The downside of 1.2, 1.3 gigahertz is this. Number one, it's an extremely small band. Basically, there's room for one pilot in the air at a time. if you're in Europe, you can get 2. But basically, if you unless you fly by yourself with no one else, it's no good. And that's an advantage of 5 gigahertz, 5.8 gigahertz, is you can get 8 channels in the air theoretically at a time. It's a very wide band. So that's one downside of 1.2 gigahertz. The other downside is that almost nobody makes a 1.2 or 1.3 gigahertz video transmitter and receiver module. Ready-Made RC makes one and Maytech makes one, and that's essentially it for the whole world. So they have some advantages, but for hobbyists, it's really not, the downsides outweigh the upsides. Quad City Bay Area says, Walksnail's teasing a new system. DJI will always be ahead. Thank you for $5. Yeah, DJI has a good track record of right when the competitors think that they're getting ready to eat DJI's lunch, DJI releases the next big thing, and it just jumps quantum leaps, you know? It reminds me, you remember in the Roadrunner cartoons? Like Wile E. Coyote's just about to catch the Roadrunner, and the Roadrunner just goes, meet me, pew! That's what DJI does when their competitors think they've got them where they want them. AJ Farah, thank you for a $5 super chat. I just joined your Patreon. You've taught me so much, and I really appreciate what you do. Thank you so much, AJ Farah, for joining up. If you guys haven't heard about my Patreon, for 6 weeks you haven't heard about it. It's a great way to support the work that I do here. Of course, I appreciate all of the support that I get in terms of super chats and other other forms of donation and support. But the Patreon is the single best way. There's a link below all my videos, and for as little as $2 a month, you can join up. As long as you're watching and learning from and enjoying my content, it means a lot. If you get to a point where you're like, okay, I don't really watch this stuff anymore, that's cool. You can just cancel it whenever you're ready, and it gets you access to my Discord server, and you can hang out with some really cool people among other benefits. Link in the video description. Bubby FPV. Bubby's here. Bubby, I was talking about you yesterday, and I don't like talking behind people's backs. So now I'll talk to you right here on a live stream and put you on the spot. I'm sure you'll be fine with it. Bubby, yesterday on my stream, I said that the thing that pisses me off the most about you and your spoiler is that I can't tell if you're serious about the spoiler making your quad fly better, or if you're just fucking winding me up. Because if you're serious about the spoiler making your quad fly better, then that's idiotic. With all due respect, that's idiotic. I think that's dumb. But if you're just winding me up, you're doing such a damn good job of it that it pisses me off. And I don't know which one of those two options I would prefer. So I just want you to confirm that you don't really believe the spoiler makes the quad fly better. I know you're not going to do it. I know you're going to keep it going. But I would really like you to be like, no, Bardwell, I'm just winding you up. So I could relax and let it go, because I will never let it go. Yeah, obviously you fly good, Bubby. I think you would fly good without a spoiler. You freaking, like freaking Dumbo with his feather. Okay, that's an old reference. The spoiler just makes him feel better. Anyway. Glad you're here, Bubby. Hey, Bubby. Yeah, Bubby, if a spoiler makes it fly better, why don't you have a splitter on the front? To be completely honest, I'm just happy to see somebody who's just having fun. I think what's really happening is you just think the spoiler is cool and you like to have fun and you kind of like winding people up about it. And it's nice to see somebody not taking themselves too freaking seriously And I'm not. I will always take myself and everyone seriously because that's who I am as a person. And it's nice to see somebody out there who's like, fuck it, I'm gonna put a spoiler on my quad. Yeah, and then just lean into it. I dig it. Jude Loco points out that according to Ciotti, it's a wing, not a spoiler. Fair. Whoops, not that one. This one. Do you have opinion on Walksnail working on a new system when the current system is not perfect? Thank you for $5, Quad City Bay Area. I mean, Quad City Bay Area, that number one, nothing will ever be perfect, right? DJI released the V1. It wasn't perfect. Eventually, they released the V2. It was never perfect. Eventually, they released the O3. It's still not perfect. I think Walksnail gets a lot of flack for not fixing the things that people wish they would fix. But it's a little bit like like when I was a kid, I usually got good grades. Shocker, right? Bardwell was a nerd. I would get good grades, and my brother didn't get good grades. I feel like all these years later, he won't mind if I share that. And so he'd come home from school and he'd like get, 1B or 1A, and my dad would be super proud. That's not true. My dad would be super critical of him for not getting all A's. So this story falls a little bit short. But I felt like he got like credit for like exceeding his own standard. And I of course you got all A's. I didn't get credit for meeting my own standard. And it's kind of like Walksnail occasionally listens to what people want and gives it to them. And then people get super mad that they're not getting everything that they want. And DJI hardly ever listens to anything you want. And then like the one time they do it, everybody's like, oh, DJI, listen to us. They really care. Think of all of the things we want from the DJI system that they never, that freaking binding bug still not fixed in the V2. You got a Vista and you want OSD to work? Nope. So the current system is not perfect. Nothing's perfect. Nothing's ever perfect. You know what the number one thing people want from Walksnail? Better range and penetration. Oh my God, they're going to give it to you, they say. They're working on the single biggest issue that people complain about, which is the range and penetration. What do you want from them? Okay, that's my take on that. Dewbird Fly, thank you for a $5 super chat. JB, you're awesome. Thanks for all you do. Can you also share some FPV video from It's Blunty? I'd be Blunty. The guy wants to see some FPV video from you. I think he'd be more likely to get like a playthrough of a new video game. I don't know.
That's
what do you
correct. Think? Yeah, I don't. I only share video, like I only make things that I would watch. That's pretty much my rule for content. That's why I help on the Q&As, I do the news, because those are the kind of things I like, right? But like I don't watch freestyle, so I'm not going to make freestyle videos, right? Yeah. So that's where I'm at with it.
Fair enough. You got a fan out here. Wants to see what you do. Bharat Parsia. I've done my best. Bharat? I don't know how to pronounce. There's too many languages and too many different. I spent 6 weeks overseas, and just when I was starting to figure out the language and the pronunciation a tiny bit, I came home, and now it's all useless. Now here's another name in a foreign language that I don't know how to pronounce, and it would be so much more convenient if all of you people would just convert to English. Think about it. Thank you for 400 rupees. I want to get into drones, and I want to build that was a joke, by the way. Take it easy. I want to build a non-fast cinema camera, thinking of SB405, SpeedyB 405 V3 with Radio Master Boxer. Express LR's parts are hard to find in India. Any suggestions? And non-FPV specific drones with the latest parts is hard to find. That's a tough one. Most of the time, if someone wants to build a slow cinema camera drone, I tell them that they should buy a DJI drone. This frickin' thing on the table behind me This freaking drone. I built a Pixhawk drone. Why did I do that? Well, I never did it before, and I just thought I'd give it a try. This thing here, this is like $500 or $600. So it's, you know, as or more expensive than a DJI Mavic. Doesn't even have a camera on it yet. Doesn't have optical flow. Doesn't have obstacle avoidance. Doesn't have a million things that you would get on a DJI drone for like $400, $600. So anytime somebody says I want to build a camera drone or something, my first thing I say is buy a DJI drone. Just do it. It's better. It's cheaper. And then if the answer is, well, I can't do that, then you got to do the best you can to build your own. And it's hard because you're going to pay more for something that works less good. And that's why DJI is number one. The parts you've got, like the SpeedyBee F405, great. I don't know if there's, like, sometimes I talk to people and they say, oh yeah, in India you can't import drone parts from China. Because, of course, the answer is go on AliExpress and buy parts. And they're like, oh no, you can't do that. And then other people are like, that's BS, you can import stuff. And I don't know what the answer is. But this SpeedyBee is great. I mean, the thing is, you have to, I can't tell you what you can find and what you can't find. The parts you've picked are good. I don't know if you can't get them. I don't know what you can get. Why don't you do what Black Jungle did? You do what Black Jungle did and make an acrylic frame. No. Don't do it. It's a terrible idea. What do you think of this stack for my 3-inch with O3? HDLRC F760 Mini. Thank you for $5 super chat. Doughbird Fly. I am usually not a giant fan of HDLRC electronics. Granted, things may have changed, but back in the day, I felt like their quality was not at a level that I was comfortable recommending. So, I mean, you asked what I think of that stack, and that's, I mean, I don't know anything specifically about that stack, but my read on HDLRC, I mean, HDLRC makes the Reckon stuff, and it's decent, so maybe they've gotten better. That wouldn't be my first pick. I don't know what would be my first pick. For a 20x20, Foxeer Reaper has a 20x20 that's excellent, if you want my actual recommendation. DJI Raw, thank you for a $2 super chat. Any question from DJI Raw? Let's just check. I have a Vision 40 and I lost the CLI when I flashed by mistake. How do I get it back? DJI Raw, Rotor Riot, you need to contact Rotor Riot support and they will send you the exact CLI dump so you can dump it back on. For all the things people might complain about Rotor Riot in terms of their price and so forth, there are people who would rather pay the absolute minimum to get a drone made in China. And then, you know, if you need support, maybe it's email back and forth once a day because of the time difference. For all the things people might criticize about Rotor Riot not being like the absolute bottom of the barrel in terms of pricing, they are in Orlando. They show up every day and somebody sits down and answers emails, and they will take the time to, they treat you, a Rotor Riot customer, like they, you know, they actually care about their customers. And if you like lose your CLI dump, they'll be like, yeah, I got that for you. I'll help you out, bro. That's my perspective. I'm sure that there's someone out there who feels like they got the shaft from them. There always is, but I think in general, they're very, very helpful, and you shouldn't hesitate to contact them. Bubby FPV says we have a Quads and Coffee on November 26th if you want to stop by, if you're in the area. Oh yeah, frickin' moved the warehouse, didn't they, Bubby? Holy crap. I remember when Rotor Riot first moved into that warehouse. That must have been around 2019. because I had just bought my car and I drove down to Orlando and they were just moving into the warehouse. And Rotor Riot was being run out of the flight test warehouse. There was a company named Lauren International that bought Flight Test and was running their store. And when Chad Capper left Flight Test and formed Rotor Riot, Lauren International was financially involved. And then when Rotor Riot started getting popular, Lauren International got cold feet about some of the stuff that they were doing was a little too radical. And the result of that was that Capper bought Rotor Riot from Lauren International so that he owned it, but Lauren International still ran the store. In fact, I think the store didn't exist. Maybe it was part of that buyout that they started the store because they had to make money. I'm not sure about that. I don't want to get too many of the details wrong. It's been a long time. But Lauren International ran the store, and as a result, Rotor Riot, it was run really badly because the people running the store were not the people who cared the most about the customers. The Rotor Riot guys had basically no say. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but there was Lauren who was really running the store. And Rotor Riot went, you know what? This is bullshit. We're gonna take and we're gonna run the store ourselves. And they moved to Orlando and they rented this warehouse. And it was a giant move because they basically had to source inventory. They had no money for inventory. Lauren International had a bunch of inventory, but a lot of it was old shit that nobody wanted to buy. And so Lauren International was like, well, you owe us all this money. So Rotor Riot owed a shitload of money to Lauren International and needed money to buy inventory. And Race Day Quads, Tyler Brennan, who is a real mensch, if there ever was one, Tyler Brennan said, you guys can sell anything you want out of my warehouse. I'll give you 30-day terms on the payments. And, and basically offered to float Rotor Riot for, I don't know how long, probably not an unlimited amount of time, but basically said, just sell product from my warehouse. I don't care. Until Rotor Riot could get on their feet and get some money to buy. Anyway, the details, then more of the story went on. I don't remember. I won't go in. I won't wax Phyllis rhapsodic about it. But I remember being in that warehouse when they first, Drew was literally building wooden inventory shelves because they didn't have money to buy steel shelves, and and I was like, you guys are going to really do this? It was like, yup. And now they're going to a bigger warehouse. So kudos. Oh, hey, Stacy. Stacy's here. Stacy says, wish you could come to our OG warehouse closing and open house for our new warehouse. Can't wait for you to see it. Indeed. It's really exciting and gratifying in a way, although I didn't really do it. But gratifying in the way like when, you see your best friend graduate from college and you didn't take the classes and you didn't do the studying, but it's really gratifying just because somebody you care about's been successful. Way back when I was like, this is preposterous. You guys are going to start your own store. I mean, like, I'm exaggerating a little, but I was like, what are the chances that you'll actually succeed at this? When there's guys like Get FPV and Race Day Quads and Pyrodrone out there, Big Fish, you're going to start a warehouse and sell stuff out of the warehouse. And they did it. And now, even better. So, anyway.
And
yeah, Blinty.
Real quick, since we're talking about stores, did you see, just on the tangent there, did you see that Race Day Quads is now selling all kinds of other stuff? Like they have boats and surface.
I did see that. I got an email about that. That's actually cool. Yeah, so Race Day Quads, I see why they did this. Race Day Quads went, we're not making enough money from FPV. What can we do? That's how I read this one. and they partnered with, I think they partnered with another store to be able to sell ready to run.
Some veteran-owned hobby store that they didn't name in Florida that they're working with. They've also got DJI like Inspire and like, I mean, they've got a bunch of stuff. It seems like. I was wondering if they're like drop shipping the stuff or if it's like how they're still guaranteeing the, you know, what's a partnership versus buyout. You know, there's a whole thing there. So.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to imagine Tyler Brennan letting anyone else run his warehouse. Like the Race Day Quad's warehouse is a wonder of the world in terms of how they pick and pack and ship orders, and Tyler Brennan runs that thing like a frickin' Swiss clock is my impression. At least it did back in the day. And so the idea that he would drop ship orders from someone else, I feel like that would give him a migraine. But who knows? Yeah, so expanding out there. And of course, Fly High FPV. Yeah, but is Tyler Brennan in my chat every time? No. No, he's not, because he's a fighter pilot on deployment. Frickin' loser. He is, you know, if you didn't know that. You know who is in my chat? Fly High FPV, Bubby FPV, Rotor Riot. That's right. Also veteran-owned, Fly High FPV. Good. There's your free shout-out. Okay, let's get on with the damn stream. This is too much. Off-Axis FPV, thank you for 5 Canadian dollars. We all learn a lot from you over the years. Thank you very much. What have you learned on your time away? Anything stick out or a learning experience? I will say this, Off-Axis. A lot of the creator grind set is driven by anxiety. The anxiety that if you don't make a certain type of content, if you don't satisfy your audience, if you're not making videos about the latest and greatest stuff, that you will immediately become irrelevant and fall off and just be a washed up failure living on the street, etc. And being forced, being literally paid to go away for 6 weeks. Don't get me wrong, my analytics dropped. Like my YouTube revenue dropped by about a third. You know, about half of that third was was super chats for the live streams that I wasn't doing, and half of that third was a decrease in ad revenue. But I went away for 6 weeks and it only dropped by a third. That's like, could be worse. So I think if there's anything I took from this trip, I hope that it's that, you know, I can take the time to make the content that I want to make and that I think is most useful to my viewers, and maybe stress a little bit less about that sort of anxiety grind set mindset. I don't know. Thank you for asking. Quad City Bay Area. Thank you for $5 super chat. I'm satisfied with Walksnail now. I don't care about 5x the range. My concern is support for the V1 VTXs. Yeah, if they release a new V2 system, will it be backwards compatible? I don't know. Good question. I hope so, but if you know, if it was DJI, would it be backwards compatible? Well, maybe. What's your what's your opinion on transparent LED gimbals? Oh, the transparent TX16S? Not gimbals. Did Radio Master release a transparent TX16S? Is it a gimmick? Yes, obviously it's a gimmick. But is it a gimmick that you care about? If so, feel free to buy it. That's cute. Oh, you guys can't see it. Sorry, I didn't switch screens. Oh, and apparently the Min Chan Kim edition. What happened to that blue Min Chan Kim edition that he didn't like and didn't use? I think he used it in a couple of videos. I don't think he flew it for races, though. When he came to my house, he wasn't using it.
Is there an extra button on the back, or am I crazy?
No, that's the Mark II thing.
Oh,
so they didn't include the button in the Mark II. They had a slot for the button and a plug, and you had to buy the button and plug it in. But apparently this MCK edition has the button. It is an extra button on the back. I don't know what you would do with that, but there you go. You can put that back. You can put that button on any TX16S Mark II. See? Oh, stop! See? There's a hole already in the case. You just buy the button and plug it in. Yeah, $4. You can have it. Okay, last super chat for a minute. Black Jungle says, thank you very much on your current Fly from Scratch series. I'll be showing your videos to a lot of people that want to get started over here. Indeed, that's the purpose. Thank you for 20 Brazilian reais. I have been, one of the things that I do when I go away for work is I teach people how to fly. And I have spent a lot of time in the last couple of years teaching people how to fly, and it inspired me to re-record and restart my How to Fly series, teaching people how to fly from the very, very beginning, which I made back in like 2015, I think. And I think I can do a better job at it now. So, all right, guys, wow, that was like an hour of super chats. Thank you for your generosity. And we're going to go back now to answering the non-super chats. We'll check back in on the super chats sometime before the end of the stream. But let's see what we got here. Slam Dunk wants to know if I have any 1S battery recommendations. The only recommendation I have for 1S batteries is definitely spend the extra money for the folded cell style. If we go to Weebleed FPV, they're not the only ones who sell it, but Weebleed FPV has them. They're the sort of home of all things whoop these days. And if we go to batteries, chargers, and accessories, is that the folded cell? Or is this the pillow cell? I think that's a folded cell. So you want this style of battery, what they call the square cell or folded cell, as opposed to the pillow cell. And then you also definitely want BT 2.0, not PH 2.0. And that's like the best 1S batteries you can get. The Newbie Drone Nitro Nectar Gold is also, look at the difference here. The Nitro Nectar Gold is the folded cell or square cell style. Do you see how the cell has has like sharp edges? Whereas this is the older pillow cell style. And this is like, these are not awful, but they're not near as good. Weebleed makes the folded cell. Newbie Drone, Tattoo are some of the ones that make it. And you can find them, Weebleed has them in 450 milliamp hour. Do they have a 750? I don't know about that. And I can't easily filter it. So if you can get a folded cell in the size you want, that's absolutely what you want. Yeah. Yeah, Beta FPV.
You can now,
yeah, go ahead.
You can now buy a bunch of that Weebleed stuff on race day quads.
You can? I mean, that's cool, but I mean, Weebleed ships out of the US. So, I mean, if you're already buying from race day quads, go for it. But, I mean, I would say that probably Weebleed gets more money if you buy direct. I don't know what the deal is, but... yeah, how about that? Weebleed FPV. Good for Tyler. Tyler Brennan. I don't know how he stays up with all this shit. All this new shit coming out. I don't know how he stays up on it. And just stays in contact with everybody. That guy is a real hustler. I'll tell you what. He's a real hustler. Okay. So that's my recommendation. Let's see. Lucid Vax asks, I want to get back into flying after a few months away. Forgot a lot of the basics and have no idea if my quads are in working condition. Where do I start? I mean, I would start by taking the props off and seeing if the drones power up. If the receiver works, like treat it like a new build. Does the receiver work? Does the video transmitter work? Does it arm? Will it do a test hover? If you fly it, etc. Will it fly? Etc. etc. That's how I would just approach it like a new build and see if it works, and then if it doesn't work, see about fixing it. After a few months away, your gear is probably still fine. Is it possible to set a two-way switch to change the max throttle of a quad from 80% to 100% on the fly? Yes, it is. What you want is this video. Betaflight OpenTX throttle scaling. Tame your 2S Tiny Whoop. This video from 4 years ago. Jesus. Just keep getting older. And stuff keeps getting further in the past. Despite the fact that this video is 4 years old, it will show you what you need to do in EdgeTX and OpenTX to have throttle on a switch. I actually don't do throttle on a switch here, I don't think. I think I do throttle... Bardwell, and you're... Shush now, shush now. I do throttle on a switch, but then I think I also do throttle on a knob. I think I do throttle on a knob as well. Yeah. I know I did throttle on a knob once. Throttle limit. Here we go. This is the other video you want. Yes, 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 yes. This video's maybe watch this one instead, because this one lets you have a knob where you turn the throttle up and down. Throttle limit on side slider. So these two videos are the ones that you want. Watch them and let me know if you have any questions. Has anyone built a drone specifically for chasing cars? Yeah, absolutely. I would say that the Catalyst Machine Works, they have like a 9 or 10 inch quadcopter that's great for chasing cars. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it depends what type of car you're chasing, because like drift cars tend to slow down because they're going around turns. Whereas like if you're chasing race cars, they may go fast on a straight and you need to keep up with them. So there's no one drone that would be great for that, but definitely people have done that. Oh. Tri-State Aerial asks, I've been moving my... Why did I click on it if I was just going to groan about the question? Why didn't I just ignore it? I don't know. I've been moving my quads off Betaflight onto KISS Ultra V2. Plan to do any Ultra V2 content. The FCs fly like a dream. No. The short answer is no. KISS, I've done some testing. It flies nice. I think Betaflight flies nice as well. I am less excited about it because it's such a small fraction of the sort of FPV space. And so the content that I make about it, I have made content about it in the past, and the content that I make about it is not as successful in terms of the value to the audience. I think what people would like is, yeah. So I like to say that there's two things that I make content about. One is stuff that I'm super interested in, and one is stuff that my audience is super interested in. And then like the best case scenario is that both of those things are true. And my audience, like the people in my audience who are excited about KISS Ultra are super excited about it, but they're a very small number. And personally, I'm like, when I've flown it, it doesn't like blow me away with how amazing it flies. It flies fine. I think most Betaflight quads also fly fine. And I don't necessarily share the ZOMG, this is the best thing since sliced bread, that some KISS pilots share. KISS people I respect, like Phantom FPV, fly KISS Ultra, and think it's the best thing since sliced bread. So maybe there's something there that I just don't have the taste to appreciate. But one of the things that I think really holds it back, like why did I build a Pixhawk flight controller? Like nobody who watches my content flies Pixhawk because I don't make content about it. That's a little different. That's me kind of trying to dip my toe into a much bigger pool. And also from a professional standpoint, there's people who I meet who like when I went out to see Daniel Riley from Free Fly Systems, RC Test Flight is his channel, and he does a lot of stuff with Pixhawk. So I go out and meet these people, or people ask me questions, and they're like, and I'm like, I don't know anything about that. So I was like, well, I want to sort of dip my toe into that larger pool. But in the case of KISS Ultra, it's a much smaller pool, full of very passionate people. And the other thing is that it's very, very difficult to actually get a KISS Ultra. And if this has changed, let me know. But like my understanding is that KISS Ultra is made in relatively small batches. And in order to get one, you kind of go to the Discord server and you wait. It's like buying Taylor Swift tickets. You wait for them to say, oh, they're in stock, and then you rush to buy them. And so as a result, if I do make content about it and people go, oh, this is great, I would like to buy it, they can't. So I'm making content that no one can actually benefit from, or very few people can actually benefit from, which just doesn't feel right to me. And I actually have asked, and I'm not going to go into like too many details of private conversations because that would be inappropriate. But I asked and I said, do you need help? Like, your flight controller is good. And it's weird to me that it's constantly out of stock and people can't buy as many of them as they want. Like, do you need money? Do you need to be put in touch with a manufacturer? Is there something I could do to facilitate making there be more KISS Ultras in the world? And again, this is the part of the conversation where I won't go into too many details, but the answer was basically, nah, I'm good. Yeah.
There is now stock, FYI.
Yeah. It is on stock right now.
As far as I know, it has been constantly in stock for a while.
Has it? I mean,
yeah, for like the last month or two, I think. I don't keep an eye on it.
Okay, like if the production has increased to the point where it's regular, like obviously things are out of stock, right? But the idea that people who want it can't get it and people who have it can't get spares, and then the people on the KISS Discord go, oh, you can get spares, you just have to wait for them to announce that it's in stock and then jump on it in the next 15 minutes. And I'm like, that's not what I'm talking about. If that situation has changed, then I will withdraw that objection and I will consider how that might change my behavior going forward. But that's what I've said in the past. Yeah. Yeah, I've been out of the hobby for 8 weeks, so maybe something's changed. That's good. Well, I'll keep an eye on that. Is it in stock because they increased production, or is it in stock because no one's buying it? That's the next question. Does anyone know? That's an interesting question.
Well, I personally believe a lot of the drive for the original buys was because it was limited. It was specifically people buying a bunch of extras because they were in the system and they wanted a bunch of them because they couldn't get them if they broke them or something was wrong with them, or they wanted to build more drones, right?
Exactly.
I mean, I know a bunch of people who own 10 freaking Ultra V2s, like,
right.
You know, and there's 5 of them in a box on a shelf, so it's like
that's part of what sort of, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, but that's part of what soured me a little bit, was that if I'm going to make content and people are going to go, oh, this is great, I want it, and then they can't get it. It's like, well, who am I helping here? But if that's changed, then I will remember that and keep an eye on it. And if it has changed, then I will not repeat that objection. You know, people should get credit for doing what they do. And if they've decided to increase batches, I'm happy about that, because it is a good product. It's clearly a product that a lot of people are very, very passionate about. And as a result, more people should get the chance to use it and to find out if they're also passionate about it. I did a KISS Ultra build. I don't know how much has changed since then. Yeah, so for the record, I have a KISS Ultra setup guide. This is my KISS Ultra. I think Phantom FPV sent me his drone and it had KISS Ultra on it, and I tried it. And that's it. That's it. Yeah, so I do have a KISS Ultra setup guide if you're interested, although it is from a year ago and it may be out of date. Okay. Well, I'm glad I whined about this question, because I found out more information that I didn't have before. Which is that it's apparently been in stock for 2 months. That's a lot. With a 250 milliwatt Express LRS controller like the Radiomaster Zorro, will it be more than enough for the DJI O3? If you're running 50 hertz, sure. If you're running like 500 hertz, maybe not. That's how I would put that. Custom Works says, I chase drift cars on a regular basis. What should I do differently in the tune to help deal with the turbulence from the car? Use gyroflow. I'm not sure. I think you should stay out of the turbulence. But if you can't stay out of the turbulence, I'm not sure how much you can do to tune around that. I think you're going to need some stabilization on the video. Bubby agrees with Bubby. Okay, Bubby agrees with me, and Bubby chases cars more than I do. So yeah, Bubby agrees with me. I'm gonna go with that. I'm not sure how much tune that turbulence is so crazy. I don't know what you could do to like tune around it. Maybe use a spoiler. What's the best way to get into 5-inch drones with the DJI V2 goggles and the controller too? Grant Borsberry, I'm very sorry to tell you, there is no way to get into 5-inch drones with the V2 controllers and the controller too. The V2 goggles will only work. No, I take it back. I'm sorry. Cancel everything I just said. That's for the Vista. You're going to use the O3. And it's going to be fine. You need to use the O3 air unit. It will work with the V2 goggles and the controller too. Will it? Shoot! Or is it only the goggles too and not the V2 goggles? Damn it! I'm 99% sure that the O3 air unit will work with both the V2 goggles and the goggles 2 and the V2 controller. I'm going to go with this. I'm going to accept this. And what I would suggest you do is get not this one. Get this one. This is the beginner FPV drone kit. You can buy it on Get FPV. In fact, I actually should let you guys know, since you asked, sort of. I should let you guys know that tomorrow, hello, this is going on Doorbuster sale. Am I okay, well, I might be leaking this before as I'm supposed to, but fuck it. You guys, this is your reward for watching the live stream all the way to the end. $30 off. I don't know about that's a doorbuster, but $30 off, 200. That's like 10% off. A little more than, it's like 12% off. That's something. 12%. If I gave you guys a 5% coupon code, you'd be like, oh, thank you so much for 5%. So $30 off is like more than 10%. That's a fair discount. That's going on Doorbuster sale. Oh, I see. The price has already been marked down. I see. Interesting. So I'm not spoiling it, and it's marked down. If you want to buy it, it's a little cheaper than it was. So you can pick that up. And what makes that so good, if I do say so myself, what makes it so good, like, why is it better than anything else that's out there? Because I did the build tutorial.
FPV.
Yeah.
Drones have been described.
Stop. I did the build tutorial. And it's the most detailed, easy to follow, best build tutorial of an FPV drone in existence. I stand by that. Ooh, that's a bold claim. What about TronCat's build tutorial? Nope, inferior. Garbage. Come at me, TronCat. Let's go. I will nerd all up on your business. No. Yeah, so basically anything you would want to do, it's all here. Yeah, that's why you should buy it. I saw on Reddit recently, TronCat has a 2023 drone build. That son of a bitch, his 2021, I think it was, his 2021 $200 drone build got like 2 million views, and I will never forgive him for that. Because that's awesome. And I therefore must I can't just be happy for him. I have to like, how dare you. And I was like, he built the drone, but he didn't do the Betaflight setup. And I was like, you 2 million views. Didn't even show him how to set up Betaflight. Showed him how to build the drone. They can't fly it. Why didn't I get 2 million views? And then in his latest 2023 build, which came out a few months ago, he does the Betaflight setup. And I'm like, oh, he's probably also going to get 2 million views. Anyway. Breacher Cat has a very interesting question. A little bold of me to take this question this close to the end of the stream. I saw your video about motor KV, but there's one thing I'm not getting. Let's say we have a 1408 motor versus a 2004 motor. Both have the same stator volumes, around 1250 cubic millimeters. What's the preferred balance for wire and magnet size? So it depends, Breacher Cat. What you need to know is the ratio. What's the optimal ratio that Chris Rosser gives? Like a 2008, so 20 divided by 8 is about 2.5. 2407, 24 divided by 7 is about 3.4. What's the ratio? Damn it. Oh, I can't find this. How to pick the right size motor for your build. No, I don't want a short. I want information. What's the optimal ratio that he gives? He gives a ratio. I can find it, but we're too close to the end of the stream. Yeah, 3-to-1? Is 3-to-1 the optimal ratio that he gives? Fun per volt says 3-to-1. Let's go with that. The ratio of diameter to height. There's a sort of an optimal ratio for a balance between responsiveness and cooling. So a wider, flatter motor is going to have better cooling because it's got more surface area. A taller, narrower motor is going to be more responsive because the mass is close to the axis of rotation. And so Chris Rosser gives about a 3-to-1 ratio is what people are telling me in the chat.
I put a picture in chat in Discord if you want to look real quick.
Thank you so much, Blunty. Appreciate it, man. This is from Chris Rosser's video. For typical freestyle motors, a ratio of diameter to height of much less than 3:1 can lead to hot motors. For hard-working motors, 4:1 or more will help with cooling. More than 6:1 will probably result in desinks. And volume is king. So what you're going to do is you're going to take that volume around... Did you guys... Fuck. I didn't even put it on screen, did I? There you go. So what you're going to do is you're going to take that volume of whatever, 1250 cubic millimeters, and then you're going to calculate the ratio of those two motors. Okay? So what you've given me is a 1408. 14 divided by 8 is 1.75 to 1. And 2004... 2004 is 5 to 1. So what we've got here is that 1408 is going to be really tall, and it's gonna have problems with heat dissipation, right? Where it's way below that 3:1 recommendation, whereas the 2004 is at 5 to 1, and it's going to be a little bit less responsive but have good cooling, but it's getting close to that 6 to 1, but it's not there yet. So of those two motors, we could conclude that the 2004 is like almost certainly the preferable motor. And the ratio of 1.75 to 1 for the 1408 motor, it means it's going to have real problems with heat buildup. That's how we approach that. Is there any way to adjust exposure on the air unit? Yes. Do you mean the O3 air unit? I'm going to guess that you do. If you swipe up on the pad, you get camera settings, and you can change the camera from auto to manual exposure. That option is not anywhere else in the menus, and for the longest time, I didn't know that that menu existed, and now I do. That's how you can change that. Okay, before we finish for the night, let me make sure that I haven't missed any super chats. I only have this one from Black Jungle, which thank you for 5 reais. On throttle curve, is there some way to make a plateau, not just a regular expo? Picture in the Discord. Yes, Black Jungle, there is. What you want to do is make a custom curve. So go into the radio, go to the custom curves screen, and create a curve, and then apply that curve to the input or the mix. If you want to know more about that, here is a video.
One of the amazing things about modern...
This Edge TX custom curve makes turtle mode even better. This video will show you how to make a custom curve and apply it. That's what you need. Black Jungle, you are correct that wider motors, all else being equal, will have slower response. Bubby, you can lock the shutter on the O3. Absolutely. Bubby's about to learn something today. All right, guys. Thank you so much for coming out. It is good to be back. I'm still getting back in the swing of things, making content, flying, and just enjoying being home. But doing these live streams certainly has helped me feel like I'm back. Looking forward to posting more content and seeing you guys around. But that's going to do it for the stream. See you tomorrow for the news at 6 p.m. Good night, everybody.